half in the bag. I don't even know what's wrong with my face.
So when that fucker Rich, Rich, the other VCR repairman who was introduced in the last episode, when he comes through this door, and he will, you start shooting, okay?
I don't even care if it's someone else. I'll start shooting anyway.
Guess you don't really have to use a sight on a shotgun, right?
It couldn't hurt.
Well, the recoil would probably break my face.
Oh, so it could hurt.
It would, yeah, and also a shotgun is like a wide spray, so I mean, it's not like a sniper rifle. But, I'm inexperienced with firearms, so I'm just going to go ahead and do what I was doing.
Okay.
We could be here a while. Go ahead.
Okay, go.
This gun's getting heavy, and I can't wait 5 minutes without beer. Okay. This would be a lot easier if the two of us weren't alcoholics. Fuck it. You know what? If he comes through, we'll just pick up the guns and start shooting him. We don't have to sit here waiting for him.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen that round boy? He can't move fast.
Who even knows if he's going to come here? He may have fled the country, moved up to Canada, where all the other pacifist, limp-wristed socialists live. Hey, this shotgun doesn't even have a pump on it. I don't even think I could fire it. Oh, foul! Oh. I guess I could fire it.
Yeah, it's fine. It was just CGI blood, which eliminates it of any sort of emotional impact. Hey, that reminds me, have you seen Hardcore Henry?
Hello, Henry. Relax, okay? Scan?
Sensory processor activated.
Hardcore Henry, or as I like to call it, Hardcore Headache, or Parkour Henry, you picked the clever alternate title, is the world's first POV action movie. Surprisingly, this was not based on a video game, but based on a music video. Will there be a video game soon? Could Hardcore Henry the game be the first video game based on a movie based on a music video? Who cares? All I know is I wish someone would shoot me. Reginald, what did you think of Hardcore Harry?
Leisure Suit Larry?
Well, that's going way back. That was the world's first video game sex game.
Which made me think of this movie because the original title for this film was Hardcore. I don't know why it was changed to Hardcore Henry, but I know Hardcore was a 70s movie with George C. Scott. It's like it's 8mm before 8mm. And it's better because it's George C. Scott.
That's a famous scene of him breaking down in the movie theater, right?
Is that a famous scene? Because I was thinking about that. I was like, why is that scene not used more? Why is that scene not a meme?
Turn it off. Turn it off!
It's the most amazing thing ever.
I think people use it kind of like the Hitler scene.
That's what it should be. That every time there's something to react to, there's a new version of that Hitler scene. But nobody uses the George C. Scott freaking out in the movie theater.
They should.
They should. Everybody should use that. It should
Listen
be a meme.
up, internet meme makers.
Here's an example of what you can do with that scene.
Party's over, kids. The clown has arrived. I'm from a more enlightened age, the space age, from the future.
Turn it off.
Space. Outer space.
Turn it off!
Cop from the past, meet cop from the future.
You trying to tell me that you're a cop? You look more like the mailman or an ice cream truck driver who ate himself out of business. You sure do like eating those things, Space Cop. Do you even know what hot dogs are made of? Oh, I guess we're talking about Hardcore Henry.
Well, there's not a lot to talk about, so this movie is 50-50 for me.
I had the same reaction. Love-hate reaction.
Yeah, it gets an A for effort, an A+ for effort. But I had seen the music video that this was inspired by. It's the same. This is the first film feature directed by this guy, but he did the original music video for, I think, his own band. And I remember seeing that when it came out, and then I saw the trailers for this movie. It's like, there's no way that a 90-minute feature can keep up this momentum and energy that this music video has. And I was right. So some parts work really well and some parts don't. And that's all that matters in a movie like this, because the storyline is super thin and really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess it goes without saying that I was hoping for more from the story. And one big problem with that was a lot of the exposition came in the end of the film.
Yes.
Which made it kind of annoying for the first 80% of it. And there were a lot of elements that I found fun and creative, and I wish there were more of, particularly the opening scene when he wakes up in the lab and the Hans from Die Hard, the supervillain, shows up.
I was gonna say he looks like an albino Crispin Glover.
Yeah, and he has Darth Vader eyes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Hans Christian Andersen. What's his name? Harriet Tubman. Who's the guy in Revenge of the Sith? The guy who's the actor, Hayden Christensen.
Oh.
Say Hans Christian Andersen, Hayden Christensen.
I get it. I get how you would come to that, I suppose.
The synapses in my brain are misfiring everywhere because of Hardcore.
I was gonna say, you did just watch Hardcore Henry.
I called the lead actor of Revenge of the Sith Harriet Tubman. That's how horribly misfiring my synapses are misfiring. Yeah, so there's opening sequence in Hardcore Henry wakes up, and he's like, it's like RoboCop. I'm a robot. I'm looking around, and then
I was thinking of RoboCop.
There's the RoboCop. There's Total Recall. There's a whole bunch of
that sequence in particular, though, because there's that whole section in RoboCop that's his POV.
And the bad guy busts in, and then there's we gotta escape. But they run out. There's a guy in an escape pod, and he's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And then they shoot out, he grabs the girl and they shoot out the escape pod, and I'm like, oh, they're in some kind of airship. This is awesome. It's very sci-fi. And of course all the robot stuff, and the former scientist for the bad guy was crippled because the bad guy crippled him, and he uses a virtual reality helmet and robot duplicates of himself that he cloned. He
can only have his conscience in one robot at a time. Which is fun. There's a sequence, there's a musical number which comes out of nowhere, which is kind of great because it's something exciting and weird. And when one stops performing, it falls down, and then the next one comes in.
Yeah, and then the one of the guys is like a British World War II soldier, an old limey bastard.
Right, Private. It is our duty to ensure that no harm comes to the cripple. Understood?
It's really fun because they're running around and they're instead of just straight up shoot 'em up violence, there's some cleverness to it.
Well, that whole sequence in particular is probably the best action scene in the movie, because this is just a series of action scenes. It's the whole movie, and that one, it's a clever sequence. The way it's presented is clever. It has a clear goal and a clear sense of geography as far as what's happening, which is nice, because there's the original scientist man who's the crippled guy, and they're trying to lower him down in this makeshift elevator thing down the middle of this big open stairway.
Don't let the cripple get below you, laddie!
Make sure you stay below the cripple. And that whole sequence is it's clever in a way where the final action scene where it's just him fighting an endless amount of guys on a rooftop and it just kind of keeps going is not clever.
Yeah, at that point, the action became nauseating. He's confronting the bad guy at the bad guy headquarters, and I thought, okay, we're going to do a thing with the bad guy. Because the bad guy has magneto powers somehow, which I don't know if it's ever explained.
It's not explained, which I'm okay with. It's just this is sort of when I saw the trailers for this, I was thinking of the Crank movies.
Oh yeah.
And the Crank movies are, of course, the best movies ever made, if you were unaware.
Crank 2 High Voltage.
Crank 2 is amazing. And this,
Number 6 on AFI's top 100 films of all time.
it should be number 4.
5.
Okay.
Five.
Okay.
Well, there's a couple more movies that are better than Crank 2 High Voltage, but
And like the Crank movies, especially the second Crank movie, this movie seems to be kind of just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's not quite as crazy. It has weird elements, but there's a lot of sort of bland action scenes too. The Crank movies are the only ones I can think of where it has this constant momentum and constant adrenaline that doesn't get tiring, like this movie does. And I think a part of it is Jason Statham. He's actually a character, and he's charismatic, and in this movie we have no character really.
Yeah.
There's nothing, he doesn't even, like the movie starts, he doesn't know who he is, and we don't really learn much about him throughout the movie. A tiny bit at the very end, but...
Tim Roth is his father, and he smashed a toy robot.
Yeah, and that's at the very end. We kind of get a little bit of backstory to this guy, so there's not really anyone to root for. He doesn't talk, which I'm sure was a deliberate choice by the filmmakers, so they didn't have to worry about that with the first-person POV stuff. So it's just, yeah, there's not really a lot to latch on to, aside from just admiring some of the stunts and the visuals.
Well, the good news is that you're going to live a while. Bad news is that in this case, 20, 30 minutes tops. Woo! This is fucking war, baby!
So this guy made the music video for a band, his band,
I think it's
someone
his
else's
band,
band,
yeah.
and it's like this, good visuals, terrible sound effects, good visuals, and then the guy who made Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter sent him a message on Facebook and said, "I like your video, why don't you make a movie?" And
Is that actually what happened?
Yeah, and he's like, "Okay," and he's like, "Just make it. Are you gonna? I want Final Cut." Okay, sure, whatever. Go make the movie. I guess he gave him money or put producers in his way who gave him money. And then he's a producer on it. And so he's like, "Do you think it'll work for 90 minutes? Sure it will. You go ahead, why not? No one's ever done it before." And I give the movie credit for that, for attempting something that's never been done before.
Sure.
This is a POV action movie with no story. That's what it is, and that's what they wanted to make.
Yeah.
And it didn't get like overly burdened with like a love story or anything that would have like Hollywood producers would have shoved in there.
It doesn't need to be Hollywood schmaltz. You just need something. You need a character.
It needed to, yeah. You needed, if they had pulled off a 90-minute POV action movie that somehow transcended above its material and had a deeper meaning, a deeper element to it, a deeper connection where you're like, "Oh, that's brilliant, that's really good, I really feel something here." Wow, they did that with a POV shoot 'em up video game action movie, because we have not used the term video game in a derogatory sense towards this movie at all.
No.
Because there are people out there who say video games can be smarter than movies, they can be more, have better developed characters, they could have better storylines. Calling this movie a video game, though, is appropriate. And it unfortunately it like furthers that stereotype or that idea that video games are just nothing but just sitting there shooting at things.
Well, it's interesting because there are video games now where the story is more important than the gameplay, where you're practically watching a movie. And then you have a movie like this where it feels like you're watching somebody else play a video game. It's like our wires are getting crossed.
Okay, well the good news is that you're going to live a while. The bad news is there's an army standing between you and your wife. So let's go get her.
This is the first movie that was made to be cut up into 25-minute parts and put on YouTube.
There you go.
Because the structure of the movie is action scene or level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yes.
And in between each one is a little bit of, I wouldn't even call it exposition, I would just call it talking. Where he stops, somebody's talking to him. You gotta do this, you gotta plug this into this. Oh shit, action scene 2 starts.
Each action scene has a specific end goal, like a video game.
Yeah, or like a theme. Like here's an action scene in the back room of a seedy strip club.
Yeah.
Here's an action scene on a bus. Here's an action scene, here. And so each one has its theme and its look. That's the general structure. And I guess I was sort of interested in the bad guy a little bit. I want to know more about him. I wanted to know why he could he has magnetism powers.
I like that they didn't explain that.
No,
He's just a weirdo.
I didn't know if he was part robot or what, and then it's like the plot is he's making super soldiers. And then there's the Total Recall twist when the oh shit, yeah, that's a big spoiler.
Yeah.
That's the only spoiler. And there's a lot of like action scenes and little set pieces that just kind of come out of nowhere and take you by surprise.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, like, to fault this movie a lot because it is very well done as far as like I don't know who the guy is that plays the guy, but he's
I believe it's multiple stuntmen. It's not just one guy.
I was gonna say whoever they got was like someone that's really good at parkour.
Parkour Henry.
And also we should pay special commendation to the whip pan, which helps cover up lots of edits.
Want to hide your edit? Do a whip pan.
Yeah. Well, that's good though. I mean, it's like you could tell where this little part was that had to happen.
Yeah.
And so they probably set up and filmed, and we got to get this part, and then so here's the next thing, and it all flowed together seamlessly. They weren't trying to say this is all a one take POV movie.
No.
There were very clear edits.
Yeah.
That were edits. But
Well, there's jump cuts too, which is almost defeats the purpose of even doing the whip pans. It's almost like one or the other. You know?
Yeah. But I would have preferred a more smoother looking POV.
Well, I believe they shot this whole thing on GoPros, the consumer grade GoPros. It has that sort of fisheye look to it.
And the quality level wasn't quite there for...
See, I would have actually liked it if it looked a little cheaper. Like, I like the music video because there's such a purity to it, and it's very clear that there's no like digital trickery. I mean, there might be little bits here and there, but I'm talking about the original video, like when he's climbing up the buildings or jumping from building to building.
Sure.
It's very obvious that this is real stunts really happening. And with this movie, it's I mean, I guess that's a compliment to the effects guys and that it's sort of seamless, but it makes it harder to appreciate because you don't know how much of it is completely, phony or done in the computer.
I read a little quote from the director, and he feels very strongly about practical stuff.
Okay.
He said the movie should at first be practical with CGI where necessary, not CGI where practical is necessary, not inverted. So
he didn't take that to heart with squibs.
You watch this movie and just think of how complex and hard it was to make, and then you're like, I don't know. I'd probably get lazy too and go, can we just do a digital blood splatter there instead of trying to time all this shit out? There were a lot of rubber heads and props, and you can tell when there was real, like there's one shot where the guy comes in and he like blows him up with a shotgun, and there's, you can tell that was real.
That's almost why it's more distracting when there is the CG, because it never blends in properly. It takes you out every time. And it's unfortunate in a movie like this because there is so much else to admire.
To me, I would almost prefer like you see him with the machine gun and he's shooting guys in the trucks. I would almost prefer just like they get hit.
Sure. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, every time someone gets hit, there's a little like CGI color blood hitting the windows of the inside of the cars, and it's just like not everyone explodes in little bits of blood, and they fall down. It's just you're fine. Are we going too hard on hardcore Harry?
No, I mean I admired it more than I liked it, and it's almost frustrating because it's not doing great at the box office. Like it opened number 5 or something under My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2, and it's
Is that the movie with Melissa McCarthy in it? I thought the movie with Melissa McCarthy in it was My Big Fat Greek. She's not even Greek.
Yeah.
Well, she might be. She might have a little Greek in her. Usually, that's just on weekends. Because she gets fucked by Greek guys.
Oh! But yeah, as opposed to something like Batman v Superman or shitty Melissa McCarthy comedy number 106. Something like this that it's at least attempting to do something a little different.
With an orgy of violence?
Absolutely. It's something different.
It's different. It's very niche, though. I don't know. It didn't feel like a wide release. It doesn't feel like a movie that most audiences would. 15-year-old boys, video game nerds. Like, it's a very, very thin, razor-thin audience because most normal people would go, that looks like it would give me a fucking headache.
Yeah, I think they were banking on the gimmick of it, though, as being like a selling point, which is why they opened it so wide. There's the Maniac remake with Elijah Wood. That's all POV. And a better use of POV. This movie just feels like, let's do it to see if we can. You know, it feels like a gimmick, as opposed to the Maniac remake, which it's completely changes the movie as far as what its purpose is, which is to get you in the mind of this deranged murderer and have you sort of understand him psychologically. So there's a little more depth to the purpose of the POV in that. This is just, look what we did.
Does this movie remind you of Run Lola Run at all?
A little bit, when he was running through the little shops in like whatever that underground tunnel thing was, and the music was very techno-y. I was thinking of Run Lola Run during that part.
And that's a movie that keeps up that energy.
That's true, yeah.
That's like ticking clock 101, like, here's your plot.
Yeah.
Here's what you gotta do.
Well, and it resets every 30 minutes or so. We're seeing the same story told, slightly different 3 times to keep it fresh, as opposed to this, which is just kind of keeps going.
Yeah. It's kind of like you're in a sports car and you hit up the gas and then you hit the brakes. You hit the gas and you hit the brakes.
Yeah.
You hit the gas, you hit the brakes.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
You hit the gas.
Mike, we have guns on the table.
Oh, geez, I was getting a little too into my metaphor.
Who built this building?
The Chinese. They built the railroad, which takes us across the United States. Over all their graves.
Are you gonna lay there? Don't stop me, don't stop me. Swallow that blood in your mouth? Or are you gonna stand up and go spill theirs?
I'm having a hard time, Jay. I'm having a hard time functioning in my brain, realizing what I just saw. My brain really wants to like it. My stomach doesn't want to like it because I threw up. I threw up all over my crotch.
I would have appreciated if you had gone to clean up and then came back to watch the rest of the movie, as opposed to just sitting in your own vomit for the next 45 minutes.
Why clean up if it's just going to happen again? It's like, why brush your teeth every day if you're just going to eat food?
That's why I haven't brushed my teeth in 5 years.
I know, and it saved you and I a whole lot on toothpaste, breath mints, and trips to the dentist office.
Whenever I get a toothache, I just do like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Yeah.
I just have an old rusty skate and just...
Yeah, and just knock it out with a rock. Yeah. At-home dentistry. Life hacks.
Life hacks, yeah.
Life hacks. Remove your own fucking teeth with a rock. I don't know. Is this a big screen experience, Jay? Or is this a home TV experience? To me, the pictures seem to kind of fall apart a little because of the quality of the GoPro.
Yeah, like it got blurry during lots of motion. I would say it's a home, because when you watch it at home, you can pause it. You can take breaks. And just admire it for what it is without, because you're not going to get an engaging story. So at least admire the technical aspects of it in 15-minute chunks.
Yeah, having the ability to pause it and watch it at home is probably better than the theatrical experience. Plus, when you throw up all over yourself, you're close to your hamper and your shower. The theater doesn't have a shower in it. Maybe they will install them temporarily for this film. new
It's like they
underwear.
have those theaters with the D-box experience, where you sit in the little booth and like the seat vibrates
I
and
didn't
stuff.
even know this was a thing.
This is a thing that exists. So if they did that, but they also included an overhead shower,
Hmm.
so you can clean all the vomit off yourself, that would be helpful.
You just wear a giant like sumo diaper.
There you go.
Just like,
They give you ponchos when you come into the theater.
oh, there you go.
Vomit ponchos.
Yeah, like a Gallagher show.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember Gallagher, kids? Well, I guess we should go back to aiming our guns at the door.
Are you pointing the gun at me?